telling the story part was always easy. The harder part, I think for all of us, is finding out what it is.
Hello, welcome to Sanctuary in the Jungle. I'm your host, Aaron Nelson. I'm excited to be here today. It's our first episode, and it's our first guest, Professor Michele Lavigne. Professor Lavigne led the public defender clinical program at UW Law School for well over 25 years. Before that, she was a public defender here in the state of Wisconsin. Back in 1995, I was a young student in her class. She inspired me, motivated me, and taught me pretty much everything I now know when it comes to defending humans in a court of law. She's a zealous advocate, always has been, and inspires everybody that she's in contact with. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. And without further ado, Professor Lavigne. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming and joining me here today, Michele.
Oh, thanks for asking me.
So I have today my favorite guest, my former law professor from UW Law School back in the 90s. We were both a little younger then.
A little.
So tell me about yourself, Michele. What do you were with the university back in the 90s. Tell me about that.
Well, I started as a public defender. I started actually in Eau Claire for a couple of years, then went to Madison, and then an opportunity to do a lot of the same work, but at the law school came up, and I jumped.
When did you start that?
89.
Okay.
I started in 89. I mean, my mother was a teacher. My mother was a middle school math teacher for 50 years, so I guess I come by it honestly.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. And I, got the opportunity, and within a year or two, the Public Defender Project came up, and I was in charge of that. It was a natural fit.
So you were at the law school doing typical law school things before you ran the clinic.
Law school things I was doing it was legal assistance to institutionalized persons.
Sure. Yep.
So it was just straight up one-on-one clinical supervision. Then up came this opportunity. Boy, was it 91 maybe?
Okay.
To do this and start working back with the public defender's office, and it was a nice fit, and it felt good for me to be home.
Yeah, well, and that's how I met you. That was a foundation of my career, of just some of the values that I still hold today, the lawyer that I want to be, some friendships that I have. It was so meaningful to me. So tell me about, what is it? What is the program that you ran there at UW?
Well, it was called the Public Defender Project, and what it was that we found a way to combine classroom work and placement in public defenders' offices. So what I like to tell people is, people say, well, what do you teach? And I'd say, I teach people how to be public defenders. That really was it. There was some work on sort of the defense function in general, but it really was geared at, how do you be a public defender? How do you do this? How do you defend as a basic matter? How do you defend indigent populations? How do you do that? How are you when you're a volume dealer, which is what a public defender is?
Absolutely.
How do you do that? So we dealt with some of the philosophical issues, the practical issues. We certainly worked on trial skills, motions. I mean, we worked it hard. I mean, you probably remember.
Absolutely.
I am Mrs. Lavigne's daughter. I had no problem saying, oh yeah, get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I distinctly remember, I think I was trying to give a performance in a closing argument or something like that. It was in an OWI case. I think there was a refusal involved, and I didn't know that there was a jury instruction involved, and I was taken to task for that, and I always remember it. And now one of the first things that I do in every case, is I'm like, go look at the jury instructions. Go look at the jury instructions. It's all about the jury instructions. So that was formative for me. So before that, you were working in a public defender's office in northern Wisconsin? Not northern to you and I, but to the rest of the world.
To the rest of the world, it was northern Wisconsin. So I was in Eau Claire for 2 years. And it was when the Public Defender's Office Trial Division started. I am a charter member of this Wisconsin State Public Defender Trial Division.
Yeah, I know you recently participated in another program together with me where we were talking about Dave Niblack and some of the other legends from that time. So tell me about the formation of the Public Defender's Office in Wisconsin.
Now, I went to law school in D.C., so I one day I looked up at the placement board and it said, the Wisconsin State Public Defender is starting its office. Do you want to interview? So I certainly signed right up for an interview. Can I be honest? I had a boyfriend who went to college at UW-Madison.
Hey.
And I thought, oh, that sounds like a nice place. Sure, that sounds like a nice place. And I signed up. And here's what I remember. The person I interviewed was then, I think he might have been the second in command at the public defender's office as it was coming into existence.
Okay.
He was so nice. Even the person in charge of the placement office said, "That's one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life."
The person that you met with first.
In D.C. So months go by because, when you're in law school and you're applying for a job, it takes forever. And I get an interview out here with Howard Eisenberg.
Okay.
The Howard Eisenberg.
Yeah, famous name in Wisconsin.
Famous
lore.
name in Wisconsin. He ultimately became the dean of Marquette Law School. And I tell people, oh, hon, I was hired by Howard Eisenberg. I mean, if I want to show my real bona fides and age.
You were vetted.
I was vetted. I was vetted hard and ended up getting the job. And they put me up in Eau Claire.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. At that time, it might as well have been Mars to me.
Sure.
I think I'd heard of Eau Claire. I get up there was one other woman attorney.
In the office? Or just
no,
in general?
In
one
the
other
county.
Oh, okay.
No. And there was one woman attorney in Chippewa County. And then I also went over to Dunn, and there was a woman judge.
Yeah.
Donna Musa. But that was it.
We practiced. Liesl and I both practiced in front of Donna Musa.
Yes.
Liesl's got a wonderful story about Judge Musa who was like in labor for 6 hours while the jury was deliberating before she
she's like, fine, whatever. But, you learn. And I actually liked it. I practiced primarily in Chippewa County.
Okay.
I learned so much about how a system actually operates and the importance of interpersonal skills.
Tell me more about what do you mean by interpersonal skills?
That, I had to be able to talk to the sheriff.
Okay.
I had to be able to talk to the DNR warden. I had to be able to convince people because it was a small system. And if I came in just wanting to be a hardhead, I wasn't going to get anywhere.
Sure.
But at the same time, I needed them to understand I meant business. And when I tried a case, I was going to try a case. When I filed a motion and litigated the motion, I meant it. And it was learning to walk that funny little line.
30 years, I'm still trying to figure out how to walk that line.
It's hard, but I learned so much about how you do that in Chippewa County. There were 2 judges.
Well, tell me more about, because that is so, for me, as you know, my wife Liesl was a longtime public defender, and I've been in private practice my whole time. And we like to joke that, I just go into a place and like pee in the pool and screw it up for everybody else, but like I do what I want. I don't have those necessarily interpersonal skills that somebody who's there every day. And to try to balance that, on either side. Liesl figured that out. You figured that out. What are some things that helped you to do that, to still be the zealous advocate that you need to be at all the time?
It's a weird kind of a mindfulness where who is this human that I'm dealing with? And I can be perfectly pleasant, although there were some people I was not pleasant with.
Sure.
But because on a day-to-day basis, I've got to see you. On a day-to-day basis, you've got a job to do. I've got a job to do.
It's not a one-off relationship.
No, it's every single day. And you're trying to find that sweet spot where if it's on the margins or if it's a close call, they'll give you a break.
Okay.
At the same time, you want them to give you a break because they know you mean business. And, well, we're going to try this case. And odds are good I could win.
It's not personal. It's not this.
No,
it's just
not this. And that's part of it is when you establish that relationship, you make it not personal.
Sure.
It's understood. That's what you do.
And maybe this is as good a time as any to dive into it. Obviously, our job, the job that you had and the job that you taught me to do is we're defending humans. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the people in power treat our clients, the people that maybe we've grown to love and care for, they treat them harshly. And I have a really hard time not taking that personal, not responding in some way because of some emotion that comes up of how they do that.
I think you have to take it personally,
Yeah.
and you have to respond non-personally.
Tell me more about that.
You have to, I can say, well, you know me long enough to know, I will naturally drop an F-bomb.
Sure, you're a truth teller.
At any opportunity. I don't get to drop an F-bomb in court. I get to show my outrage by controlled use. This is where really paying attention. What language are you using? What's your vocabulary? What are they sensing the steel in your voice? If they know you well enough, they're going to know, she's got veins popping in her neck.
Okay.
But she's not. I'm not going to be found in contempt. Because in the end, it isn't about me and my ego and my feelings. And if I can change your mind by letting you see that I mean this with all my heart, and I'm now going to lay out the 19 reasons why you're wrong and why that guy sitting over at that table's wrong, and I do it, I win.
I mean, I appreciate that you talk about it in a way that seems natural, right? You've been doing this for a long time. You've had experience. You've taught it. You've thought about it. You're intentional. Where does that come from for you? Where do you think that ability to, like, when you say almost like distance, it's you feel it personally, but you don't express it personally?
Well,
Is that something you learned from your mother or the teacher, your father, somewhere else in the family?
boy, where does that come from? I mean, it's a skill. It takes an extraordinary amount of, I think, of just attention to what am I doing.
Insight. I mean, of reflection.
Reflection, and it's like it's an act of double observation. It's like, here's how I'm feeling. This is the reason I'm feeling this way, and now here's how I'm presenting it, because the real truth, how I really feel, isn't going to help anybody. It's not, and it's work. It's, to me, that was the hardest thing. It is absolutely the hardest thing, is walking that tightrope. Sure. Because I don't want to be unfeeling. I don't want it to be just, well, this is just a cognitive function. I don't want it to be, aren't I the smartest person in the courtroom?
Sure.
That does nobody any good. The truth is, emotion sells. It does.
Yeah.
But I have to couple it with some reasoned, persuasive arguments that are held up by my emotion. I have to. And if you don't, one of two things happen. You're either just, a screaming lunatic. And I will admit, there's been a few times when I just got there. When, the pencil goes down and goes flying across the room.
Who amongst us hasn't?
I've done that. At the same time, it's like, look, I'm not a law machine.
Yes.
I'm not one of the Wisconsin reporters, 115 Wisconsin second, 35. I'm not that. And I'm appealing to somebody. I don't care who the judge is. Anybody who's the judge, any human being with half a soul, has got to be moved by emotion.
So obviously we're talking about communication here, right? Tell me about how that, and I think what we're talking about is performance. I know you have a lot about communication on the language side, but just how much is this performance part of communication? And it's maybe talk a little bit about that. Would you use the word performance, or would you use a different word?
I don't like performance because it suggests something fake.
Sure.
Whereas if you say, how am I today? I'm about to present, I must be confident. Not I must look confident. No, I am confident. I have become confident right now. And that everything is then driven by how I am today. All right? I am angry today. I am hurt. I'm feeling like this guy's getting the shaft. All right? I have to get that across with real feeling. I want them to know that what I think and what I'm feeling is real. That I don't act. I don't play act.
And that comes across, as you said, not just in your the word choices, but in the volume, in the
Yes.
tone, in the
Yes.
delivery, in the pace.
Everything. Okay, I'm going to tell you 2 great compliments that I got. One was from a judge, I don't know where we were, somewhere, and he said, "Do you know what your reputation is?" And I said, "No." And he said, "That you care." It's like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I'll take that, right?
Yes. Years later, I was at a retirement party for actually somebody in the DA's office. And I had been at the law school a long time, but there was a clerk for Judge Northrup who had since died, but there was Joe Gregory. And I just looked at her and I said, "Joe Gregory, Michele Lavigne." And she said, You made us think of things in ways we never thought of before. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And her son was standing there and he said, "I've never heard my mother give a compliment like that. Can I buy you a drink?" I said, "Yes, you can." Because I'll take that. So, yeah, that.
Yeah.
It's that. If it comes from what you really think and who you really are.
Yeah. So that's a good place for me. Like the caring, like why did you choose to do this job? Why did you choose to say, I want to go and defend people who are accused of wrong that maybe the rest of the world doesn't like, why did you pick this?
Well, let me say, I went to law school figuring I'd be some kind of legal aid lawyer from the beginning.
Really?
After my first year of law school, I got an internship in a legal aid clinic in Anacostia. And if you know anything about DC, it was down. I had to ride the bus past St. Elizabeth's Hospital.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, oh, I love this. And because it was about the clients, in the end, I was about the clients. I did more of that in my second year.
What did you love about that when you say you loved it about the client?
I wanted to know their stories.
Okay.
I loved the clients.
It's like almost, maybe you know this. There's, maybe it's a apocryphalic story about Mr. Rogers, that he had a note in his wallet that said, you can love anybody once you know their story.
It's true. It's true. Which isn't to say I love everybody. I don't. And it isn't true that, I would walk out of a meeting with a client and, believe me, I could, let it rip. But it's like, it's there, and my job was to find out. So I envisioned that I was doing that. Well, then my third year, I'd been told we had this program called DC Law Students in Court. And somebody had said, do the criminal side, you get into court much more than the civil side. I said, yeah, okay, I'll go do that. Criminal law, the way it was taught at GW was just dry, and it didn't mean anything, and it wasn't particularly appealing one way or another. It was like, yeah, fine, it's another class. I go into this clinic, and I remember going into the lockup in DC, and I thought, well, I'm home. I loved it.
Really?
Loved it. And that's how I met Dave Niblack, because he's then one of the supervising attorneys in this program. And he comes in, and we'd heard, story after story about him, because one of his mentees was my direct supervisor. And in comes Dave, and I don't know if you'd ever seen any pictures of him, but honestly, what he looked like was an insurance agent. He came in, he had a comb over, a bad comb over. He wore, these polyester short sleeve shirts and a tie, and these police shoes that were shined to, the spit shine. And in comes this man, and the black plastic glasses. Of course. And he comes, and we're going, huh. And he stands up, and he just looks around, and he said, your job is to stand between your client and the vicious sons of bitches that want to do them harm. I thought, oh, yes, this was it. I loved it. I loved, the clients were great. DC Superior Court at that time was it could get a little wild and skeezy, and It was great.
And Keith, I think, has described it before. Keith Belzer has described it, that as criminal defense attorneys, we're maybe on a continuum. There's kind of this social worker one side of it, and there's the warrior side. And I'm sure we all float back and forth along that. Where would you put yourself on that continuum?
Boy, that's a good question. Probably over more on the warrior side.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of social work in my backpack.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and so that's what I was thinking. I mean, you're clearly, obviously, as people said, you care, right? But I get the tone, and I've always got the anti-authority, the fight the power, there's that from you. Fair?
Very fair. You've got power.
Where's
Come
that? I mean, is that something, again, were you involved in protests? Were your parents? Is that something that was just kind of natural for you to pick the underdog?
I think I always was, kind of an underdog gal.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, I suppose a little of it is, so I went to a social justice Catholic high school. You had to be out there. You had to join one of these two organizations that was about, making people's lives better. That was a demand. You had to do it. And, back at that time, so I graduated from high school in 1970.
Okay.
And so you can picture what was going on back at that time.
I can't. I wasn't born yet.
Yeah, no, you can't. You're right. It was quite the time, let me say. But you do start to understand the power. I mean, Richard Nixon was president.
Ugh.
It wasn't until lately that we started to come up against something that could give that man a run for his money. And you start to understand, no, power's not necessarily good.
Sure. I mean, that's the late 60s there, and you're a teenager in the early 70s.
So right. I mean, so 1970, Kent State. 1968, you got assassinations going wild. You're like, what in the Sam Hill's going on? So you start, that really struck a hard match of, oh, wait, this is how the world is. So then I go to college, and I don't really know, but then, I was a political science major. What do political science majors do? They go to law school. Duh.
Yeah, that's where I went. As a criminal defense law firm, protecting our clients' privacy is everything. When we set out to upgrade our website, we wanted more than just a site. We needed an all-in-one solution to safeguard client data and make content marketing easier. The last thing we can afford is a data breach or a patchwork of tools that don't talk to each other. That's why we chose Made Daily for our website and secure digital headquarters. With Made Daily, our clients can securely upload documents, complete intake forms, and communicate with us, all inside a private client portal that's encrypted end-to-end. It even links directly to our law practice software, Smokeball, so our team doesn't waste time duplicating files or juggling logins. Everything is connected. Everything stays secure. Made Daily's secure digital headquarters gives us peace of mind, and it gives our clients confidence that their most personal information is protected. Learn more at madedaily.com. Your business, one secure place.
And when I got to law school, I mean, GW is actually a pretty corporate kind of a law school, but I was
beginning to wonder if they all are, Michele.
Well, yeah, you might be right. But they had, I don't know, I knew I wanted to represent clients. And in fact, one of my job interviews, my third year, was for a big state legal services organization. And they're like, well, why do you want to do this? I want to represent people. Well, we're really concerned about impact, right? Litigation. Where would you fit? I said, I want to represent clients.
What about this wasn't clear?
Yeah. No, I'm about the clients. And I was about the clients.
So you're there to, like I think a lot of us, you want to help people, you want to care, right? And I think we all know, or at least you and I do, and people in my office, about how important it is to tell their story. Mm-hmm. And I love that part of my job. But there's this also just weight of and responsibility of telling another person's story and like finding the balance between that. I'm always, I'm surrounding myself by people to help me figure out that balance. Did you at any time find it like, just tell me about that weight of carrying somebody else's story and telling their story? Was that easy for you? Was that hard for you? Did you struggle with that at all?
At the risk of, I suppose, sounding like a jerk, I mean, telling the story part was always easy.
Okay.
But the harder part, I think for all of us, is finding out what it is.
Absolutely.
Those are not that easy to get out. You have to have, we were talking about communication, and here's where genuine hardball communication skills that we do a terrible job of teaching, let me say, really come in. Because if I need to know your story, I need to go in after it. And I need to figure out, how do I get with you? How do I get on the same plane with you that you're comfortable telling me your story, that you even can figure out your story yourself?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they don't even know.
They don't even know.
Yeah. They don't know what's important. They don't know why it would be important. They're just from
Or they don't know how to tell it.
Yeah.
They don't know how to tell it.
Tell me, so let's talk a little bit more about that. When you say they don't know how to tell it, I'm just fascinated about, how vocabulary influences so much of who we are, our morality, our ethics, our decision making. Tell me about that. How does that impact when you say they can't even tell it?
Well, whether you're talking about, school. All right. Yeah, I didn't like school. All right. That's actually tough to get at. Okay, let's talk about, what do you mean, tell me about it. Well, I wasn't very good in school. And you're going to get it's going to tend to actually be quite bland.
Sure.
Very, very bland, until you start to say, tell me about a class you liked, tell me about a teacher you liked. It's
got to flip it.
You have to flip it. You have to start to understand, how do I probe for this? A friend of mine who's a speech language pathologist said that what you're doing when you're interviewing, and I don't like that word interviewing, but when you're going after this information, you're like an archaeologist going after shards, and you're going to get pieces, and there's going to be this mess, and you're going to end up with a box of parts, and then you, lawyer, are going to have to put them together. And
that's where I imagine you have a lot of thoughts about this, but for me, there's such different skill sets, right? There's the analytical lawyer that you just said, you have all of this. But to gather those shards, you almost have to be a blank slate. You can't try to push it in any particular direction. And it's just, they're almost like opposite.
They're certainly separate.
Sure.
When the shards are together, it's like, okay, now let me figure out how to deal with this.
Because I want to put stuff together right away. Yeah, I might get 3 pieces and be like, I got it. I want to put this together.
That's one of the problems we really run into. Number one, I'm going to say this. Law schools, law trainings, we do not teach genuine communication. We don't.
Yeah.
We all assume, we all did well in the verbal SATs, so therefore we understand language. Judges assume, I could tell by the language you understood, you didn't. Cops do that all the time. I could tell he understood. DAs, I know what this person meant.
Yeah. Even if they speak a foreign language, sometimes they'll say that.
We don't. One of the things I've learned over the years, and a lot of it's working with a speech language pathologist, on a couple of articles and really doing a deep dive into our communication. Our communication's a disaster when it comes to our clients.
How important is that to have that client communication, to raise the level there?
It's all we got. What else is there? We don't do blood draws.
Yeah.
We don't do scientific tests. What else is there? You've named this series Sanctuary in the Jungle. That's Sanctuary in the Jungle.
Tell me more about that.
All right. When I need to know you, I need to know your story. And I need to figure out how to go in and get it. And I need to make it safe for you to do it. And I need to make it correct. I need to go after it. How many times, I think about it, I think, my God, how many times have I gone in there and actually not known the full scale of what happened here?
Oh, almost. I mean, it's
Right.
the rare time where you feel like you actually know it all.
And so interviewing, I mean, within the speech language world, within therapy world, the interviewing or conversations, which is a much better term, is a whole science. There's courses developed on this.
Absolutely.
Training is done on this. All right, the way we do training as defense attorneys, somebody's going to watch you in trial. Somebody's going to watch you do a motion. Somebody's going to watch, maybe review your written product. Maybe they'll watch you do initial appearances. Do they ever sit there and watch you talk to a client?
Client interview.
Nope.
And how much time do we devote to
And how much
interview?
time do we devote?
And how much of a plan do we put into it?
A plan. Are we planning? Do we think about who is this guy? I mean, I believe that as a public defender, you are crushed for time. And you might have 5 minutes for a particular thing. It's going to be the best 5 minutes in the world.
It's got to be.
And I have to sit there and say, what's my goal? All right. And I may come up against somebody. Odds are I'll come up against a client who's got a different goal. And it's I want that. Right now, I need this. But you have to know how. You are constantly observing, ooh, what was that answer I just got from that client? And what did I do to just get that answer? That seems from outer space. Why is this? What did I do to draw this? How do I change? I mean,
It's all looking at yourself.
we analyze ourselves. Listen, you try a case, you're going back over it.
Sure, but the communication, what I hear you saying is like, I don't analyze myself probably enough in communication.
None of us do.
Yeah.
None of us do. Why am I having trouble here?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like, well, he'd have told me that if it was important.
That's right.
He'd have said that.
Number one, he didn't, maybe he couldn't get at it. Maybe he couldn't access it. Certainly might not have known it was important. How would he know? And it's just, and then your client will say to you, well, you didn't ask me. And it's like,
Yeah, it's, for me, I'm aware that I'm read a lot. I've had a lot of opportunities. I have a certain vocabulary. I have access to a lot of different things that has put me maybe in a position different than other people. And I'm thankful for that. But I also want to have some humility and humble and assume that when I'm talking to somebody else, I want to talk down to them. I'm like, they're as smart as I am. They're as smart as I am. They're as smart as I am. But there's almost an air as I'm, that sometimes if I think they're as smart as I am, then they're going to act the way that I would, and they just tell me the shit that I need to know. But that's not right. That's not how it works.
Right. And if I'm dealing with somebody who dropped out in 10th grade, they may not be able to even access that information until I figure out I'm going to help you access it. There's a certain therapy component to it. But one of the big mistakes we make, we talk way too much. We talk, I have now started, I just call it STFU. And stop it. Stop talking. It's because, and I see it with students. The students want to show, I'm going to show this person how much I know about the law.
And you're in control too. It's also
you're totally in control. And as you say, you've given me 3 facts. I figured this out. Boom.
Yeah.
No, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No.
There's almost a certain vulnerability that you have to have when you have this conversation. And I know different days I'm more or less willing to be vulnerable. There's, that fluctuates for all of us.
Yeah. And humility is a big one. That's not something lawyers do well. So
I'm striving. I'm still striving.
Humility, it's like, and not be afraid to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
And not be afraid to not speak.
No, I find that to be, not every question needs to be answered, or there doesn't have to be. It's almost like there's a dichotomy.
Maybe there doesn't need to be a question.
Sure.
One of the things, so this speech language pathologist named Sally Miles, she has a PhD in speech language pathology, and she co-wrote the Brendan Dassey article with me.
Okay.
And she showed me really how you get in at this stuff. But we worked long before that, so one of my articles is called "He Got in My Face, So I Shot Him."
Yeah, I read that.
And he got in my face, and how do you even deal with this? Because there's going to be an automatic assumption. One, it's self-defense. You're just jumping straight to self-defense.
Sure.
And you're thinking you know what it means.
Because you're going to interpret it under your own
Your own,
experiences.
and so's the judge. So's the cop. The cop's going to be saying, well, see, he's a gang-banging thug.
yeah.
We all do this. And so it's just this thing of, he got in my face. Say more about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Get some more details.
Get some more details. And one of the questions, and this is something Keith has said as well, is a deadly question is why? It puts him on the spot. And it requires, that's when they're going to start making shit up. Because they're going to start going back through, going, what's my reason? I have to have a reason. She's demanding a reason.
And what do you think? Do you think we need to have a reason?
Well, and it's just more like it at some point, maybe you need a reason, but maybe it evolves. I mean, part of it is, as lawyers, whether as a public defender or a private attorney, you want the answer. You want this case going into a box as soon as possible so you can get to work on it.
Do you have I know we want to be privileged, but do you have any stories that you can recall about a conversation? I know you've said you've written articles about this where there would be how did that evolve? How were you able to do that?
This is a little off, but
It's all right.
I can show you. So actually, I got called in as a consultant on a case with a deaf woman. And I kept saying, God, are you sure? Are you sure? And I was questioning the kind of interpretation she was getting. And so the lawyers brought me out to do this. And I said, well, let me sit down with her for a few minutes by myself because I can sign some. I could better then than I can now. And we had a conversation. And so then in comes the interpreters. And we're just talking about her life. We're just going on and on and on about her life. And, and she did have she was actually very good at signing and explaining her life. And I could tell these interpreters were kind of looking at me like, Miss Smarty Pants from Madison, Wisconsin. And then finally she said, why are you asking me all these questions? I said, well, I'm trying to get a sense of, what you know and how you communicate and this and this and this. And then I flipped and I started talking about the case. That fluent, smooth person, it was like we hit a brick wall.
Just, she couldn't do it.
She couldn't do it. She couldn't understand the if-then and the what and the concept of why. It was like, holy shit, this has gone off the rails completely. Now, again, it's slightly off, but again, it's assumptions made about how she thinks and how she operates and why, in fact, she did this.
Sure. Somebody will, we have that a lot in, just for me in my limited experiences, not guilty by reason of mental disease or person sounds fine to me.
Yeah.
There's just so many assumptions that
It sounds fine. Our big one, I could tell he understood. I explained it and I could tell he understood.
How do you get there?
Because first of all, if they don't, if you have any kind of language deficit or just an underdeveloped language skills, which most people will have compared to you, they just will.
Sure.
They're not going to say, I don't understand.
Correct. At least when I was in a different life, I would coach kids soccer and things, and I always made it a point that I tried to do this in law too, but I don't do it as well. But the question was never, do you understand? The question was always, did I make it clear?
Yeah.
Because I always thought that was a way to, it's easier to say, that's your fault, Coach Nelson.
Yeah.
You didn't make it clear.
But, you're still, even with that, you're assuming that they can articulate what they don't understand. You got to know what you don't know, which is a tough one.
Yeah, Donald Rumsfeld went down that road.
Yeah, but, okay, back to law school. Did you have Erlinger for Trust and Estates? Howard Erlinger?
I had Liesl Nelson for Trust and Estates. She took all of the notes and made sure that I passed my pass-fail. I don't recall who the professor was because I never went to...
A very nice man?
I'm sure he was a very nice man.
Was it Howard Erlinger?
That sounds familiar.
Yes. Okay. Had you been there, there would have come a time when Professor Erlinger, one of the nicest people in the world, would have talked about the rule against perpetuities, which I can't.
I don't know.
21 years life and being something. I don't get it. But he would have said, Does everybody understand? Any questions? And everybody would have sat there going, no, I get it. Mm-hmm. There's not a person alive who understands the rule against perpetuities, but you'd all be sitting there going, uh-huh, uh-huh. That's what clients do.
All the time.
All the time. All the time.
How do we, so just time? I mean, I assume a lot of part of it is, I think maybe a friend Cynthia Rosenberry, I always hear her say, you got to rock with your client. You got to rock with your client.
I mean, you got to rock with your client, but you got to know how to talk with your client while you're in that chair. And it's, you can rock till the cows come home.
Yeah, yeah.
But unless you have that ability to frame, first of all, you have to be someone who it's safe to talk to, meaning, what we consider a normal conversation about this may appear to be verbal showing off. It can be certainly intimidating. Don't forget, this is a verbal arena. That's all we got is words. Everything's done by words.
Oh, it's all words.
Every last thing.
When this, every now and then, as a little aside, the state will be like, that's just a semantical argument. I'm like, it's all words.
It's all words. What do you expect? That's what we do.
But, when you talk about safety, you're obviously, at its core, we're talking about physical safety, but really we're talking much different than just physical safety. We can assume that in most of these relationships that we have, that we've created a world in which our client is physically safe.
Yes.
But what do you mean when you say safe otherwise?
Well,
then?
if you want to get into physical safety, most of my clients were taller than me, and they knew there wasn't going to be if it came down to that, there wasn't going to be a whole lot that I could do. But safe in the sense of I'm open to what you have to say.
Yep.
I'm open. I don't think I'm smarter than you, and I will make it safe for you to say these things to me. I will make it possible for you to figure out what do you need to say. I'll make it possible for you to go through things that might be painful to remember. That's safety. But in order to do that, you really have to have the nuts and bolts of communication down, which is why, if I were queen, we do a lot of trial skills. We all know this. Look, I've taught all kinds of trial skills, and we've done this and done that. Where's the 1 week on how to communicate? Where is it?
It's nowhere.
We don't. 2 weeks of NCDC. The trial skills is 2 weeks.
Yes, and we have a day on client interviewing.
On client interviewing to get to, and the purpose of it was to get to direct.
Yes.
And how about the purpose of it is to find out what in the Sam Hill happened here and who this human being even is. Where's that 2 weeks?
Yeah.
How about 1 day? Just go mad.
Just
call
one
it a
day.
day. It's everywhere. We teach when we talk about skills, we are talking about almost everything except that.
And at least for me, it feels like the criminal defense world, the court system, it's a system of judgment. And now, not wanting to get too far, but we live in a world in which judgment is even more and more on social media, and everything is judgment. And it's really hard, I think, to let another human being know that you're not judging them, because I'm feeling judged all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you're feeling judged oftentimes.
Totally.
And so the clients that we have who are, they're being judged. Their conduct is literally under judgment. To create that environment is just, it's astounding that we can even get there.
Well, not only is their conduct being judged, their personhood's being judged. And I was just at a sentencing last week in Wisconsin, and I watched, the conduct was being judged, and I thought, and you are going after this human being for his essence. You are basically saying, and you are a bad person.
One of the things when I was thinking about just the theme of defending humans or the theme of sanctuary, I was dabbling in some other stuff, and I came across this psychological concept called unconditional regard. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
I think it's a guy named Carl Rogers came up with it. And essentially, like, you have this, unconditionally, you have this. It's not your character. I'm just going to give you regard. I'm going to give unconditional dignity is maybe the phrase. I can't remember. I conflate the two of them. But I'm trying to get myself into that mindset with my client or with others. And it's, even when I'm intentional and I read about it and I do that, it's a hard place to go. And then we live in a world in which nobody else is doing that.
Right.
Right. And that's where I feel like it's all conditioned, all the regard that I'm going to have for somebody else is conditioned. The dignity that I give to somebody else is going to be conditioned. And already you're here in the criminal court and you've not met the conditions because you're here.
Because you're called State of Wisconsin versus.
Yeah.
That becomes your first name.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. This is where I see the big split with public defenders and private. They're already thinking, I've lost dignity because I got to have a public defender,
Sure.
public pretender, public offender, not a real lawyer.
Yeah. Whatever terms.
Yeah,
that
whatever comes. And so some of them are going to come in defensive.
Absolutely.
Ready. They've already made up their mind about you. So, some of it you're kind of backing out. And then it's just, you treat you with dignity. The problem is, of course, I'm here talking to you. I'm here talking to you in the hall. And the bailiff's saying, you got to come over here. This court wants you over here.
Yeah, you're getting pulled literally in multiple directions.
You're getting pulled in multiple directions. They don't, I don't want to sound like a whiner, but man, there's a lot of courts that really don't give us any kind of regard.
Yeah,
they don't. It's just, well, there's a public defender. You got to come in here. I don't even know who this person is. Your Honor, I can't be here then. I'm going to be gone. I'm on vacation. Then get someone else. It doesn't work that way. That's not how it works.
Just the lack of, it seems like everything has to be earned, right?
Yes, 100%. And even then, they may still say, yeah, you're not getting that.
Yeah.
Because in the end, you're a public defender and you can get somebody else to be here.
So essentially the system says we don't really care what you do or why you do it. We just need to check a box and have a body here.
There's a defense. Oh, yeah.
We just need a body here.
Yeah.
We need a body at that table.
Yeah.
And that's lip service really to the principles that we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And you find that happens?
Oh,
Seems like an obvious question, I know, but for our listeners that aren't criminal defense attorneys.
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Why do you think that is? Because we give lip service to due process, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody loves to talk about right now. Not everybody, certainly in certain bubbles, they're like due process. And absolutely, you and I believe in due process. That's our bread and butter every day. But it feels like it's just lip service, right?
Well, it is because it's due process is satisfied if I've got a body here.
Yeah.
Due process is, well, from the public defender's office. It's like, I've got a relationship with my client. I'm not bringing in somebody from 3 doors down because I've got to be somewhere.
Sure. Right. And
it's just no. Or they'll call and they say, we need somebody over here. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm taking a vacation. Well, then you better get somebody to deal with it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We value the things that we measure. We measure the things that we value. I'm not quite sure, but now they're definitely measuring efficiency in courtrooms.
Oh, yes. Oh, efficiency and the numbers, and the judge saying this case has been open for X 122 days. Counsel, it must be resolved in this number of, it's about processing the cases. It's processing, do it. That's the efficiency.
But the do it is a DO, not a due process,
yeah,
DUE.
No, it has
not the process they are due.
Due process, no. Mm-mm.
So, as practitioners, if there's practitioners out there that criminal defense attorneys, we don't have a lot of control in setting up that environment, right? I want to do this sanctuary in the jungle, right? Mm-hmm. Criminal court should be a sanctuary in the jungle. And for me, that means it's 2 parts. It's a place that recognizes humans with dignity and compassion, but the decision-making is done without emotion. It's done evidence-based. It's done rational. There's a process that we follow. But we probably have the least amount of control in setting up that environment.
Oh, so that all you can do, and that's why when you talk about sanctuary in the jungle, it's like, look, I'm your sanctuary in this jungle. It's me. It's not going to be what these people are doing. It's not. There might be some due process, but, you and I have had this conversation before, and I've had it with other people of like, I know there's lawyers that say I represent the Constitution.
Yeah.
I represent you. And I will use the Constitution as a weapon.
Or as a tool or as a shield.
A shield or a weapon or whatever I have to do with it in my little, Xena warrior princess outfit. But, all I can control is myself.
I like that idea of you're the sanctuary. Like it just emanates from you.
Yeah.
And it might, obviously any clients that you've represented understood that a lot more energy is emanating from you than probably most of the rest of us.
So.
What is it as a teacher, right? You, for how many years were you teaching at the law school?
Oh, God. Was it? Well, no, it wasn't.
Must have been 30 years.
It must have been 30. Yeah. I
mean, you have all of the, some of my best friends, some of the lawyers that I greatly admire. Ben Gonering was a classmate the same year as I was. Mm-hmm. A good friend of mine, Jessa Nicholson, who we'll talk a little bit about more.
Yes.
And Matthew Hefty, I know, is a student of yours. And so those are just a few to name. But how, other than those, I'm sure you had lots of phenomenal people come through. But how do you give them the strength? How do you let them know how difficult this is going to be without
crushing them,
but to understand the importance of showing up every day and having the energy to create this sanctuary? How did you do that as a teacher? That sounds like, just even now as I think about it, I was like, oh my gosh, that must have been exhausting and complicated, difficult, if not impossible.
Looking back, I don't know how difficult it was. It was just, first of all, they knew. By the time I'm seeing them, so I first saw you your second semester of your second year.
Yes.
And so you had some sense of how it operates. Again, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but it just is. I mean, I think I hope I gave that off. This just is. And when it was weak-kneed bullshit, I wasn't afraid to say it.
I just finished reading a novel called Matterhorn by Karl Marlantes, and it's a novel of the Vietnam War. But one of the soldiers would often talk about it, a phrase that they'd share back and forth, and they'd say, just, there it is. They'd explain some sort of injustice, and there was nothing to explain it. And one soldier would say to another, one human would say to another, there it is.
Yep.
There it is.
There it is.
And that's a lot of what it's almost just a recognition of there's nothing to do about it. We just have to recognize that this is what it is, and when we have to move on.
And because I think teaching it without being it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
When you say without being it.
Without being that I care deeply about this, and so now I'm showing you I care deeply. I'm not saying I care about this. I care about it.
Yeah, no, that was obvious. That came through. That seeped through your pores. That was dripping out of you.
And so if somebody gets up there and it's, they're doing rote, they know. They know it's not going to, they know things aren't going to go well. And, whether it's, the beginning of cross-examination and it's and the first one sucks because they tend to, and it's just take my word for it, I'll get you there. I promise you. Because I also engage with them. I make a deal with them. You go with me, I'll get you there.
Yeah. What do you say to the people that say, well, that's just Michele. Michelle's she's fortunate to be confident there's got to be times that you've had self-doubt that you're like,
of course.
What am I, how am I going to do this?
How am I going to do this? And part of it is getting people to understand, look, you are not me, but you bring you to this. You must bring you to this, so that then, from there it gets to, I teach respect for judges. Who is this judge? So when, they write their first motion and it's 20 pages long for a motion to dismiss a complaint, it's like, well, nobody's going to read this. Why don't we start here? Let's start with a compassionate view of what this guy's job is like.
Yeah. What volume does he have to deal with as well?
And,
right?
are they reading the blah, 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 blah? And some people, they can't handle that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you can look at another job.
So teaching criminal defense attorneys, right? 30 years you've done it. We've talked about how some of the prominent criminal defense attorneys, there's hundreds, if not thousands of attorneys here in Wisconsin that you've influenced. What if that goes away? I mean, what if the law school says, you know what? We're not going to teach criminal defense attorneys anymore.
We're not teaching this anymore.
We don't need it.
It's not prestigious enough, blah, 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 blah. It's a major loss. And here's why. I've had students that go on to become all kinds of things. Prosecutors, judges, corporate lawyers. But it teaches you something that nothing else can teach you, which is here's how, first of all, just how do you deal with people? Here's what it looks like when somebody didn't have all the breaks that you have. This is what this looks like. Here's how the judges are treating people who didn't get the breaks.
Sure.
And aren't sitting there with the fancy lawyers. It would be a major loss because it gets you down into the world of what really goes on. And the skills you learn doing that, you can take it to anything. If you want to go work at Foley and Lardner with these skills, have at it.
Yeah.
And you will. And you know what? You'll be better for it.
Absolutely.
You'll be better for it.
I worry if it goes away. Obviously, there's practical concerns, right?
Yeah.
There were but to say that our leading university in the state, that, there's only two universities that you can get a law school from, and that leading university says I hear them say we don't see value in the due process. We don't see value in criminal defense. We don't see value that all of these principles that we have. And that that makes me feel so alone. It makes me feel so alone.
Well, I just feel betrayed. And then I'm just, like, oh, please. The people that are saying this, they couldn't do what we did for half a day. They'd be dead, or they'd be crying in their beer somewhere, or they'd be with their mother. No, they couldn't do it. The people that say that live in their heads.
Yeah.
They don't live in reality. They don't live in the understanding. Because I would encounter people in the law school that would say, well, can't this just be combined with the prosecution project? No. These are really different skills.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit before.
No.
Like that sometimes somebody will say, well, you've got to learn both, or there's value in being a prosecutor before you become a
defense attorney. It's like, no. Oh, yeah, that was a common one. You had the both, and then you had this notion of, well, if you learn to be a prosecutor, that makes you a better defense attorney. No. You become a better defense attorney by being a better defense attorney. That's actually how it happens. Which isn't to say that there isn't something to learn once you get it, to get a sense of, well, how does a prosecutor think? So I was pretty friendly with John Chisholm, the
Sure.
longtime DA of Milwaukee County. He'd come to my classes, and I went down and went around and saw some of his community prosecution and how it worked, because it was like, I thought, I really want to know, how does he think?
Sure. No, how he thought was certainly unique amongst prosecutors.
It was definitely unique among prosecutors, but he and I had a deal. We understood. He even came to my retirement party.
Oh.
That's what I like to tell people. And it was hilarious? So it was at the East Side Businessmen's Club. I mean, this was really, hardcore, and the law school paid for 125 Manhattans. And anybody could have Manhattans. And so people were there, and somebody had taken there were pictures of famous Supreme Court litigants on the wall, and they brought them there. Clarence Gideon was the one in the middle. And John Chisholm at some point backs up and Clarence Gideon falls on his head.
Oh. That's a little message, perhaps,
Yeah,
right?
a little something, something. I said, "Oh, John."
I just reread. I just reread Gideon's trumpet. And,
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that that whole principle of that. He didn't have a lawyer, and so he lost. And the whole time through, like as I'm reading this, they're like, a lawyer couldn't have done anything. A lawyer couldn't have done anything.
Yeah.
He was guilty. He was guilty. He was guilty. A lawyer couldn't have done anything. And that's just everybody's looking at the case, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And of course, as we know, he got another. He got another trial.
Yeah.
He got a lawyer, and you know what happened?
Acquitted.
He was found not guilty.
Boom. Done.
And which is what I think goes back to the only a criminal defense attorney could see that.
Yes.
Like the rest of the world didn't see that. Wouldn't see how that happened. A judge can't see that.
A judge cannot see it. No.
A prosecutor can't see that.
No.
There's some things that only somebody that is trained and recognizes these patterns over and over, only they can see that.
I mean, but that's where and you can see where now it's devolved to the warm body test. And so you couple, which is coupled with ineffective assistance of counsel. You look at the standard for ineffective assistance of counsel.
So low.
It's so low. It's so pathetic.
Yeah.
And that's because, we care about finality. And it's like, yeah.
It's shocking.
The altar of finality is everything. Whereas
Efficiency and finality.
And if the lawyer sucked, the lawyer sucked. And I'll say it. I know I've sucked at times, and there's some lawyers who just suck.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the if that's the standard, everybody's going to pass it. I mean, like I said, I've got a trial coming up next week, and I'm deathly afraid my client's going to get wrongfully convicted.
But and here's the interesting thing. Okay, how many times have any of us been asked, how do you represent someone who you know is guilty? Like, okay.
Too many times.
All right, at any cocktail party, anything, and you say, no, that's easy. I'm scared when I represent someone I think is innocent. Then I am a wreck.
Oh, yeah, right? I'm like, I think they got it wrong, and this whole result might be dependent upon my performance, upon my work.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. What if I screw up?
Yeah.
What if I screw up?
Yeah.
You're going to put it all on yourself. And that's the thing that scares the snot out of you.
Yeah, which is what, any trial lawyer, worth their weight has lost trials because you're just trying cases, right?
You're trying cases, yeah.
And how do you not look in the mirror? That's you have to balance it. You have to balance it. But it feels as if those trials, maybe now I'm the one crying into my beer, right? But so correct me if I'm wrong here, but it feels like when the other side loses, it's not a reflection.
No.
It's a what did Michele do to trick us? What did Aaron do to cheat?
Oh, yeah. You know what? It's our fault they lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Excuse me? You did that on your own, bucko.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and sometimes they lost because they're wrong.
They're wrong, or, they didn't put the case, or the jury sees it differently. That's why we have these 12 people. We bring them in.
That's what my answer to the question lately is, if I know one thing is I'll never be 12 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Constitution doesn't say you have the right to the opinion of one lawyer. That's not what the Constitution says. It says that you have to convince 12 other people.
And
I'm not 12 people. They're just at the
people.
End of the day, I'm like, I'll never be 12 people, so I'm just got to go forward and do this.
Right. And to get people to understand, look, if I know somebody's guilty, I shouldn't be their lawyer. I don't know. I mean, I can say, ooh, got a hell of a case against you here.
Yeah.
I can certainly say, ooh, I can picture myself going down in flames here. I can see that. Do I know? No, if I was there, then it's not my case.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, maybe it's just a different concept of knowledge, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're very open and humble, intellectually curious about like, well, I might think some things, but I don't know them.
I don't know them. And then it's just like, oh, that's just, being clever and sophistry and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, that actually is the standard. Do I know? No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I might have a pretty good idea, but so what?
So some of the things I think about with Sanctuary in the Jungle is, decision making, in an environment. But what little I've been starting to read up on this is like the perception of fairness actually improves public safety. Mm-hmm. It reduces recidivism. It improves everything else. And it just seems to me like, okay, that's so obvious. It's just evidence. There's evidence that says the perception of fairness improves public safety, but that doesn't change the needle. That doesn't make it a sanctuary. That doesn't improve the behavior within there. Why do you think that is?
Because in the end, there's a visceral sense. People fear crime. And we will err on the side of finding them guilty. We will err on the side of punishing them harder. No one has ever lost an election for being too tough on crime.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever.
Yeah.
No recall for someone being too tough on crime. None.
None at all.
None.
So it just comes down to just fear and public safety.
It's fear. I think it's straight fear. We're seeing it now. We're seeing it now in politics where, crime, calling Chicago a hellhole.
Yeah.
Okay, we're preying on this fear of something. And I'm going to say there's a racial element to it.
Absolutely.
Look at the cities we're picking on here. But it's like fear is an emotion, and we all know emotions are much stronger than any cognitive process.
Yeah, that's why for me, Sanctuary in the Jungle is to try to rely more on the cognitive process, because I think the more we rely on the cognitive process, the more at a macro level, it's going to help our clients. If it's not on an emotional level, if it's not going to be a reaction to fear, right?
Yeah.
It's going to help us.
Can the cognitive process overcome the emotion? And I don't know.
Yeah.
Do
you think just here a big part of this is efficiency. We talked about it already. Make things happen quicker, make things happen sooner. And what I've always thought is, look, we want to somewhat, I don't want to say drag it out, but go through the process, because also over time emotions dissipate. You're going to be more likely to have a decision based upon rational process and cognitive. Yeah. And yet here's this other trend now to push everything to be, as they say, efficient, which is really faster, which means it's going to be more emotional.
It is. It's going to be more emotions, and it's based upon the great fallacy that faster is fairer. It's not. It's great. It's built upon that great fallacy that actually the system's very easy to understand. It's not. For example, you get a deal from the DA for the first time. You're sitting there, and the judge says, "I'll give you 5 minutes." No.
Yeah, life-changing decision, just you've got 5 minutes to do.
And I'm going to explain constitutional process to you.
Correct, to somebody else who may have some limits.
Yeah, to somebody, and it's like 5 minutes. It's like, they have to understand the risks. They have to understand the benefits. They have to understand, the nature of the case. They have to understand this. They have to understand this. We'll give you 5 minutes. Maybe they're going to be nice and give you 15.
Sure.
I can't. Counsel, yes, you can. And, and it's the same thing when it's just speak slower and use plainer language. And it's like, oh, God, no.
Not that simple.
It's not that simple. It's not that simple. And it really kills me when you have somebody on the bench who was a defense attorney and they're giving you this.
Why do you think that is?
They lose their minds.
When I think of fairness, a lot of times I think of this, what I think we're talking about, procedural fairness. We have to go through all of this stuff to get to it. But there's a large part of the population, maybe they're sometimes judges, that are just, it's results-based, distributive fairness. It's just all about what that result is. And that's where this tension is. They think they already know it. We just need to get there as soon as we can.
We need to get there, and we need to check the boxes because we have, to some extent, taken due process down to, can we check this box?
Yeah.
Do you remember Dave Schultz at the law school?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Jury instruction
The jury instruction guy. So he had dealt with the guilty plea questionnaire,
Yes.
CR 227.
Yep.
We all know. I mean, I still remember the number on it. And
227,
yeah, and he said they wanted to get it on a single piece of paper. Have you ever read that thing? Have you ever taken a good hard look at that
Yeah.
thing?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
It's like somebody's talking about they have a disorderly conduct and suddenly there's somebody else telling them about body armor. What in the Sam Hill are we even talking about here?
And even on parts of it, it says you can't modify it.
No.
So I'm like, I cross stuff out on there all the time, but I'm like, it says you're not, I mean, you have to know that you're going to be able to modify it.
Yeah, because it 2/3 of it doesn't apply to most people.
Yeah.
And the way that it's written, sometimes you're going to have double and triple negatives in there. And you're thinking, this is unintelligible.
Yeah.
Counsel, you can explain it.
Probably took me about 20 years to figure out how to ask some of those questions in a way that were understood because you didn't have double negatives or triple negatives or
Negatives.
whatever those
well,
things
and we
are.
also build in, do you understand you are giving up the right to this? As
Yeah,
opposed
yeah,
to,
yeah.
we actually back up with, let me start with this. When a person comes in here, you have this right, which means this and this and this. Tell me, help me out, do this. Do you understand? They don't even do that. They just, do you understand? Blah, la, 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 la. Do you understand?
What's the answer to that? Not anything other than yes.
Yeah, it's the ultimate leading question. Do you understand
Yeah.
is the ultimate leading question.
Yeah. How can we, it almost gets back to the Dave Niblack quote that you started with, right? You're to just stand here and,
Yeah.
flip the switch. What was the quote again?
Your job is to stand between your client and the vicious sons of bitches that want to do him harm.
Yeah. And they want to do it quickly.
Very quickly, in addition to everything else. Yeah, and you have to give that sense of, you want to get to him, you got to come through me.
Yeah. As teachers, but also, as lawyers and as teachers, we're witnessing our clients' trauma, and sometimes the trauma as a teacher, you're witnessing your student lawyers experiencing their clients' trauma. How do you help them process that? How do you process that secondhand trauma?
Well, number one, I don't know if you process, you take it.
You just absorb it. You're just a sin eater.
And then you hope that, you can work it out.
Yeah.
Can you process it? How do you process that day after day after day? It's interesting to me because
Maybe that's the wrong word. Yeah.
there was a time a while ago where everybody was saying, well, public defenders have secondary trauma because their clients' lives have been so bad. I actually disagree that that's the cause of it. No, I'm watching what you're doing to my client now. And by the way, what you're doing to me too.
Yeah, we talked about it before. You talked about it and I texted my friend last night. I'm so tired of the cruelty.
Oh, it's constant.
Just
for its own purpose.
Yeah, and it keeps showing up because what else are you going to do? Like you said, what else are you going to do? You got to keep learning. You got to keep doing it. I know it's important, but it's that is to me I'm getting old, man. I'm tired. This cruelty is just...
And it is, and, it's the Mary Trump book. The cruelty's the point.
Yeah.
They're just, you sit there and you just say, I understand why you felt you had to do what you had to do. Maybe I'd do the same, but why are you talking to this man this way?
Yeah, labels and characterizations.
Why? And characterizations and assuming I know what motivates you. No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you don't. What, based on reading a 5-page pre-sentence investigation?
Which is also just, to me, intellectually, cognitively, just it's so frustrating because I think all the research supports, like, to change behavior, you shouldn't do that. If you want to modify somebody else's behavior, you need to make them feel like they belong. You need to bring them in. You don't need to cut them out.
Not tell them. And talk about, you were talking about humility earlier. Could you try some? Could you try a little on?
Yeah.
Just, I don't understand when there's going, and I can tell, and I know, and I believe, and you don't mean this, and you said this, but I know, and this, and this, and this, and you're thinking, you know nothing.
Yeah.
You are no different than me, and I'm going to sit here and say, boy, is there not a lot. There's a lot I don't know, and you're no different than this guy over at the next table. I guarantee you, he doesn't know much. And it's shocking to me.
Yeah.
That we just think we know. And I have a former student who's a judge, and I one day said, do you get anything on psychology at Judges College? I mean, are they talk about humans? And, well, we did something, we're finally learning juvenile brain development. Now, it was 20 years after Roper versus Simmons, but I said, well, better late than never.
Yeah, right.
But it's like, well, who are these people?
One of the things I've been thinking about is from a sentencing standpoint. I'm not saying a particular judge, but if judges lack the communication skills to make a victim feel whole, to make a communication skills to make a victim feel healed, to lack the communication skills to kind of explain what we're doing here, sometimes they just substitute that for a big number. And it's a lot of the sentencing that we actually have, the mass incarceration, comes back to this lack of communication. They don't have the words to express what they really want to, and so they just give a big number.
They just give a big number. And it's gotten so much worse. So I started practicing in 1978, and I want to say there was like 5,000 people in the Wisconsin state prison system. What are we at now, 25,000?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? The population of Wisconsin hasn't grown with a multiple of 5. It hasn't.
No, not at all.
And so, what is it? I mean, that is our communication method. I will show you. I will give you this number. It is the phoniness. First of all, this notion that the criminal justice system is going to make any victim feel better about anything is preposterous.
Absolutely. It's the wrong place to seek healing.
You're not going to it's not going to heal anybody.
No. Is there anything we can do as criminal defense attorneys to improve the judge's communication skills? I mean, what I try to do is I'm just like, I have to model it. I have to also educate. I have to start telling the stories that maybe the judge can then steal or take or reform. What other ideas do we have
you can educate by the slow drip of communication. What are some fundamental things you see the judge doing? Pick the ones that apply to your client. My client is going to be saying these things that can be easily interpreted as lack of remorse. Here, judge, your intellectual self, here's the research that shows, in fact, why we don't understand. And I drip, 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 drip. And you might not get it today, and you might not get it tomorrow, but maybe next week.
But even maybe using some of your tools, you might be thinking this.
Yeah, yes.
And I understand why you might be thinking that.
Yeah.
But, I thought that at first too.
But in
fact, I've learned.
Throw yourself at the, I'm equally as stupid. I mean, you can,
Yeah.
I mean, say I don't get it.
But I've learned this through.
But I've learned this because I've done this and this and this. And here's what I learned.
Yeah. I wonder if it'd be interesting, again, unlimited funds, to just do a study on like literally judges' vocabulary and the sentences that they give. I'm guessing there's a correlation between the lower their vocabulary, the higher their sentences.
And they're just, or it might be, or the higher their vocabulary in the lower their emotional IQ,
Sure.
all of a sudden you're going to be going down. This.
I just think they want to say something, they want to, but they don't know how.
They have no idea.
They don't know how, and so instead of maybe doing the work, or even you don't know what you don't know,
mm-hmm.
and so they're communicating what they want by giving the number, because that's just a simpler, easier answer.
It's an easier way, and it's not engaged. It's not hard.
No,
it's
nobody's
not
going to be
our-
critical
not going to.
other than us.
Yeah,
and we don't
but
really count for much.
No, it's like, well, they're defense attorneys. What'd you expect?
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of reflection. How many judges reflect before they walk in there? How many judges reflect as they start to talk? Are saying, is this making any sense? Or am I just talking to hear the sound of my own voice?
Yeah. No, I mean, those are good questions you'd hope that everybody's asking.
Yeah. But if you start to say, one of the things when I talk to students about, I would say, if you start to understand, judges are like anybody else. And they like to be flattered. They like to be this. They like to be educated. And if we start slowly but surely, I'm back with the same argument here. Here's more science on this, Judge. I know you had said you didn't buy it last time. I got more.
Yeah.
There's more where that comes from. Allow me. If we say, in the end, judges are lawyers just like us. That's what got them there. They're lawyers just like us. They'd like to learn something new. Their job has got to be pretty boring. What if we start to give them a new way to think about things? And it won't be today. It's going to be, we're going to keep going at it and going at it and going at it. And we will present it in a way very dispassionate. This is where your left brain, this is that kind of sanctuary. It's like, we're going to talk about this as a safe place to talk about law, to talk about social science, to talk about hard science, and we're going to get you to understand this because I'm treating you as an intellectual who wants to understand this.
Sure. And what are the errors in thinking that we have?
Yes.
How should we make decisions?
How do we do this and keep at them and keep at them and keep at them in a very respectful kind of a way, understanding you're talking about cognitive bias. You've got to overcome cognitive bias that the size of the wall of China. Okay, fine.
The best way to do that is just keep showing
going.
up.
Keep showing up.
Keep showing up.
Here it is again. It's not the same motion, Judge. I rewrote it.
Which is actually very important as opposed to just resending the same thing.
Resubmitting it. I'm here. Now I'm going to bring in somebody who's going to talk about this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to educate you if it kills me.
Yeah.
I mean, patience. You have to have patience to do this.
Yeah. And sometimes it's in short supply.
Yeah,
but,
I know. Yeah.
So we should probably wrap up. This has been fantastic. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this.
Oh, this is fun.
I need to improve my communication skills to be able to tell you how much it meant to me to have you be my teacher, to be somebody that I learned from and to just look up to and admire throughout that whole time.
All right, and let me tell you how cool it is to look out and go, see that guy? See that the good lawyer there? He was my student. It's pretty darn cool.
Still learning.
It's pretty darn cool.
Thanks for listening to Sanctuary in the Jungle. This episode was brought to you by Nelson Defense Group and Made Daily. We'll see you next time for another episode. Until then, stay strong and carry the hope.